Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Christian Weekly. I am your host, Patrick Dorrance, and first off, I'd like to apologize for this video not being brought out sooner. I meant to do this last week, but had some problems with scheduling and getting the video done, so this is last week's video, and I'm actually going to be releasing another one in a couple hours in regards to Lil Nas X and his latest music video and a shoe release. Now, you're probably wondering why I'm doing that, but you'll understand if you've been reading about it. And so I want to apologize for being so long on this one. So we're doing this one right now. We'll have another one in a couple hours, and there will be a third one this week. So I'm going to try and stay on top of it a little bit better. But anyway, I want to give my reaction to the Atlanta shooting and the Boulder shooting. Happened. And just want to talk about a couple of things and what we need to do as Christians about this. And so, if you're new, check out the other videos. If you haven't already, hit like and subscribe if you feel so impelled. I don't have any images in this slideshow, so there's no warnings there or anything. And all the verses that I have in this video today, I will be reading from the King James Version of the Bible. And yeah, let's get into it. I'm going to first talk about the Atlanta shooting that took place on March 16th, which resulted in 8 dead and 1 injured. Now, the suspect is 21-year-old Robert Aaron Long, and essentially what he did, he went to 3 separate spas and massage parlors and shot staff and some other people who were in there. What his motivation was, I'll get to that in just a sec. Now, there's something we need to know about what happened. Now, these spas and massage parlors were owned by people who were Asian. The shooter just so happened to be a white man, which started raising a lot of things. Was it racially motivated or what? So the automatic and the sad thing is nowadays in our society nowadays, there's a huge stereotype that all white people benefit from privilege and that like 99% of white people are racist and all that other stuff. If you live in America nowadays, you know what's going on, especially if you're like me on the more conservative Christian end of it. There's a lot of stuff going on towards us, and there's stuff going on towards everybody, but this is just a stereotype I think needs to be addressed, and that we need to be careful with it. So the question is this: was it racially motivated? From what the FBI released in a report, they are saying no. There's no proof of any kind of racial motivation being involved. Now, we have a senator here from Illinois, Senator Tammy Duckworth, and this is what she is. These are her words. "It looks racially motivated to me," she said, adding the caveat that she is not a police officer or personally investigating the crimes. This is a quote from a Reuters article. I will have that linked in one of the last slides if you want to read the article for yourself. Now, she's not saying it was, she's saying it looks like it. So keep that in mind, as that's what she thinks. However, the FBI is professionals. They know what's going on. I'm going to trust the FBI with this one. Now, there have been rumors, and I don't know if any of these are true. I haven't seen much evidence for it. Rumors of, in these spas and massage parlors, sex work. However, like I said, there's no evidence of that. And Long, he actually claimed that he was a victim of his own sexual desires. So you have 3 things going on here, 3 ideas. 1, this was racially motivated. White man was racist against Asian people and killed them. 2, if there was sex work, which I doubt was the cause, and he was saying he was a victim. He went to go, I guess you could say, eliminate what he thought was the problem, which is totally wrong in that sense. That's really bad. That's not how you fix something. Or 3, he had some other kind of psychological or issue, something going on in his life. You know, we can't just assume just because he was white. We can't assume it was racial motivation just because the victims were not white. And I've actually seen a couple articles that came out before the full story was actually developed and actually came to light. Someone released saying like, oh, it was 8 Asian people. Well, no, it was 8 people dead. 6 were Asian. 2 of those people were white. And the person who was injured is actually Hispanic. So, next slide here. And this is a list of all the victims. Now these 2 up here, Delana and Paul, were white. They are white. Then these folks here, these 6, obviously they are Asian, like I said, and you can see in their names, those are not typical American names. And this gentleman down here, Alcaius, I do believe that's pronounced, he was the only survivor. He's Hispanic. And so, yeah, I mean, yes, the majority of them were Asian, but just because the majority of them were of a different race, you can't necessarily say it was an act of racism. That is honestly one of the most overused words in the English language nowadays, next to love and hate, is racist or racism. You can't call everything an act of racism, and you can't call everything racist. It's something everyone has to understand. It's an abused term. And, sadly, I see it in our next coming generations. Whenever I have kids, I have a strong feeling that this is all going to be taught in the public school systems and all this, and seeing how society is going right now, kind of fearful that this kind of stuff is going to be put into schools and kids being indoctrinated about the wrong things. I don't think there's any room for indoctrination of any form. So, I just got to pray for these victims. And I know, as much as a lot of people are not going to like it, pray for the guy who caused the shooting, the one who started and killed these people. I know a lot of people are calling for people like him to be executed and all this other kind of stuff, but really, instead of saying that he needs to die, you really should be praying for him. We all should. He needs it. We all need it. That's the right thing to do. And as a Christian, I don't think any of us have a right to demand that somebody be executed. I don't think we have any room to say, oh, he needs to die for this. That's not our place. Our place as Christians is to pray for this individual. We have no room in saying whether he should be executed or not. So now I want to move on to Boulder, Colorado. And this took place March 22nd, it was 6 days after the Atlanta shooting. This one resulted in 10 dead, several people wounded, including the suspect. And as you can see, the suspect, he is actually from Syria, Ahmad. His name is Ahmad. He is from Syria. Now, from the first pictures that came up of him, nobody knew his name, nobody knew anything, but immediately people were saying like, oh, look at that, of course, he was taken alive because he is white. Now, yes, he did look that way on the camera, but then immediately, once his name was actually released and a mugshot was released, I saw a lot of those claims just vanished. They were gone. Kamala Harris, the vice president, her niece, I do believe it was, put out a tweet. I don't remember what the tweet was exactly, but it ended with the hashtag #FOffWhitey, something like that. You all know what that F means, but after the suspect's name was released and where he's from, All those tweets went down, including hers. And this took place in the King Soopers supermarket. So motivation behind this, from what I have seen and studied, no cause for motivation from what I have seen. There definitely had to be some kind of motivation. Although this comment here, Ahmad's brother had always been worried about Ahmad's mental health. He also said he was very antisocial, been kicked out of school for fighting, stuff like that. He had been in the U.S. since 2002, so he's been here for years. They said he was born in Syria, and there have been rumors, I don't know how true it is, but apparently the guy had sympathies from ISIS. Now, if you, for some reason, don't know what ISIS is, whether you've been sheltered very strongly or you live under a rock and you just choose not to watch TV or go on social media, ISIS is a terrorist group. Kind of like, well, not kind of like, just like Al-Qaeda, the Boko Haram, the Taliban, terrorist groups from the Middle East. When you use the term radical Muslim, usually it's in ties to ISIS. Now, that's not a negative claim on all Muslims, obviously, just on the ones who want to go and kill everybody. That's not okay. And this guy was actually already known to the FBI. He was already on a list because he was linked to another individual. Now this kind of, for me, proves more about these ISIS sympathies. So he was linked to another individual. That other individual could have been an ISIS member for all we know. Not much has been said about him, so these here are the victims. The first guy up here, Eric Talley, the police officer. So the majority of the people wounded, from what it seems, were cops. But that, whether he was an officer or not, doesn't really matter. The fact is this man died when he was doing something heroic. And so this is just the 10 people who passed. So we just need to keep them in mind. And like Long, the last guy I mentioned, we need to keep Ahmad in our prayers and pray that he hopefully converts and asks for forgiveness and repents. I know he killed 10 people. Obviously the American justice system and the eyes of the majority of this country are going to see him and say, he must be executed. But like I said previously, we as Christians have no right to claim that anybody needs to be executed for anything. We are told to love, not condemn people to death. That'd be, if we wanted certain people to die, then that's completely contrary to what Jesus said. And you can try and use the New Testament to back up the death penalty all you want. It's not going to work. And so my thoughts on this, obviously what happened was bad. There's shootings. Nothing good ever comes out of a shooting. Now, we have to remember, we cannot always assume it's racial motivation. Now, the difference between Boulder and Atlanta, Boulder, the majority of the people who were shot and killed were white. You take the Atlanta shootings, majority of the people were minority. They were Asian. Now, this is something that really, really annoys me to my core, is that anytime a shooting happens, if it's committed by a white person against someone who is not white, it's sprayed all over the headlines everywhere, and you don't see 8 dead, shot and killed by shooter in shooting. No, that's how it used to be. Nowadays you have to, for whatever reason, have their race and have their gender. I don't care if a black man shot a white guy, or a white guy shot an Asian guy, or a Hispanic guy shot a black guy. Okay, doesn't matter. Their race and their gender do not matter. What matters is people died. Why their race and their gender have anything to do with it? doesn't matter. That's not important. The only way their race should even matter is if it was actual racial motivation. In this case, I don't think it was. And like I said, I'm going off of what the FBI said. They're professionals. I trust them a lot more. So you can say it was racial motivation all you want and make an argument for why they had to show that person's race or whatever. But you look at, Colorado, it was white people shot and killed by technically an ethnic minority. And guess what? They did not, make a huge rave over, 10 white people and police officer killed by Syrian man. No, it's, 10 dead by shooter. Either you make everyone priority or you don't. You can't have it either way. And this is where I call out, and I'm trying not to get political, but liberal media, because these quote-unquote progressives are very anti-religion, anti-anything that goes against their beliefs. So what I'm getting at basically is, in this kind of a scenario, in this situation, the people who died, their race and gender don't matter. What matters is that 18 innocent people have their lives stolen from them by essentially 2 murderers. That's the only thing that should matter. Not their race, not their gender, not the race of the person who killed them, but the fact that 18 innocents were killed. That should be the only thing that matters. And quite honestly, these two situations have created more division and hatred, because instead of working together to figure things out, people are just yelling and screaming at each other like they have been for the past 6 years. 4 years really. I'm thinking of the whole Trump administration from 2016 and 2020. But no, it's ridiculous, and we really need to be showing love and compassion and forgiveness more than anything right now. That's really the only thing that's going to bring this country back together is Jesus. And the sad thing is, so many people on both sides don't want to accept him. That is the problem. No, we need to get Jesus involved. We need to work things out, and we need to figure it out as a country, and not just conflicting political parties arguing for whatever reason and wanting just a power struggle. We need to act like Americans and fix our country. If you're not from the US and you're watching this, you don't have any idea what it is over here. It's bad. But anyway, so I want to read a couple of verses about what the Bible says about love. And like I said, this is all going to be a King James version, so hopefully you can follow along. I understand the these and thous can be confusing sometimes, but I'll do my best to explain it as I go along. So the first verse I want to start with is 1 John chapter 4, verse 7. Get there real quick. And so this verse reads, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone that loveth is born of God, and knoweth God." So what John is writing here is he's saying, hey, let's all love each other, because love is from God. And everyone that loves is born of God, and everyone who loves knows God. So if you don't know love, if you don't love, you're not born of God, and you don't know God. That's what that verse is saying right there, and I think that's a great verse. I'm also going to read 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 8. And this is also a very important one here. "And above all things have fervent charity among yourselves, for charity shall cover the multitude of sins." Now this is 1611 Old English. So charity here means love. It means the same thing as love. They're interchangeable. I know when we think of charity, nowadays it's more kindness, or like you're donating to a charity of some sort. But no, charity can also be love. So I wanted to clear that up. And so what it says here is that we need to have love among each other, and that love will cover many, many sins, which I think is super important, I think it's great. Obviously we need to ask for forgiveness of our sins and repent, but if just by showing love, we're already having so many of them covered. So now I want to move to Matthew chapter 5. Scroll back up here on my app. We're going to be reading verses 43 through 48. Let's start here. And all of these words are Jesus, so they're important. I mean, every verse in the Bible is important, but the ones Jesus speaks, I like to point those out the most. Ye have heard that it hath been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. So it's saying here saying you have all heard that it has been said, you'll love your neighbor and you'll hate your enemy. So you only love your neighbor, you hate your enemy. Move to verse 44. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. So Jesus is saying here in verse 44 that we also have to love our enemies and all those who do us wrong. Because like I said, let's look back to 1 Peter 4:8. Love covers a multitude of sins. And so I think loving your enemy is a huge thing, because a lot of the times the enemy, and I don't really like using that word enemy. I wouldn't necessarily call someone that, but I guess it makes sense in certain cases. But most of the time, someone who's doing wrong to you and is hurting you, they just need to be shown some love themselves, because they probably are in a situation where they've never been shown that before. So I think that's a really important verse to look at. Read verse 45, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. So God makes the sun shine on the good and the bad, makes the rain pour down on both good and bad. God's doing the same to all of us, no matter what. He's still going to love us no matter what. Verse 46, for if ye love them which love you, what reward had ye? Do not even the publicans the same? 47, and if ye salute your brethren only, what do ye more than others? Do not even the publicans so? 48, but ye therefore perfect, as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. So, it's saying here that if we love only those who love us, what reward are we going to get? Because even, sinners is really what a lot of other translations will say. Don't the sinners also love those who love them? And that's what it's saying there. So it's also a pretty good, don't judge verse too. So I really like this set of verses. So next we're going to move to 1 John chapter 4, verse 20. We're just going to scroll down. Okay, so 1 John chapter 4, verse 20. If a man say, I love God, and hateth his brother, he is a liar. For he that loveth not his brother, whom he hath seen, how can he love God, whom he hath not seen? So, I'll use an example to kind of explain this. And here. If I go and say that I love God, but I hate, say, my neighbor, that means I am a liar and a hypocrite. Because if I actually love God, then I'll actually love my neighbor as well, no matter what. So that's what that verse is saying there. If we can't love someone who we can see in the flesh, how are we supposed to love God whom we have not seen? I think that's a pretty self-explanatory verse, but I'd like to give some clarification too. And so the final verse I want to read is from Proverbs chapter 10, verse 12. Let's get to Proverbs real quick. Okay, and so this verse reads, hatred stirreth up strifes, but love covereth all sins. So if we're showing hatred, we're just creating more problems. Now, if we are loving people, then we're covering our sins, is what Proverbs is saying in there, which really goes back to 1 Peter 4:8, that charity covers a multitude of sins. So it's amazing how a lot of different spots in the Bible correlate with one another. And so now I want to read a couple verses about forgiveness, and I am going to go through all of them because why not? And it's all New Testament, so stay in the realm of New Testament. So first I want to read Mark 11, chapter 25, or Mark chapter 11, verse 25, I'm sorry. So this verse reads, and when ye stand praying, forgive, if ye have aught against any, that your Father also, which is in heaven, may forgive you your trespasses. So what it says here is that if, when you are standing, forgive someone if they have done something to you. And if you do that, God will forgive you. So if I am praying and I forgive someone who, say, a friend who wronged me, if I forgive him, then God will forgive me. That's basically what that verse is saying. We'll move to Matthew 6, verse 15. If my app will work. So 6:15, verse reads, but if ye forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. And that is Jesus talking. So that's pretty self-explanatory. If we don't forgive people who do wrong to us, God will not forgive us when we have done wrong. Pretty self-explanatory. So next, and I don't know why I have these two verses backwards, but I'm going to do Luke 6:27 first. I don't know why I did it, typed it that way, but I did. I'm going to go ahead and read those in order. So it's 27. But I say unto you which hear, love your enemies, do good to them which hate you. So I don't think I need to explain that one. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Now we're just going to scroll down to 37. I know there's a lot of other stuff in here, but I need to get this one wrapped up and start producing the other video. So here's verse 37. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven. So that's kind of also going into what I said with, we as Christians, we have no right to say people should be executed for such and such reason. Saying, don't judge or you will be judged. So if I judge somebody for some stupid reason, I'm going to be judged. And if I condemn somebody for something, then I'm going to be condemned. So that's how I kind of see that. We have no right to judge. We have no right to condemn. But it does say here, forgive and we will be forgiven. So we all know what that means. If we forgive, God will forgive us. So next, we can dive into Romans real quick. Oh, I passed it. Whoops. Romans chapter 3, verse 23. And that verse says, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. So if anybody is going to be equal 100% in some way, shape, or form, it is in this. Every single one of us, no matter what your standing is, we have all come short. Doesn't matter who we are. I know I failed. My brother has failed. A lot of my friends, co-workers, people I see on the street, I know they have all come short of the glory of God. Even your pastor or your priest if you're Catholic, or a leader in your, if you're a Mormon in your church, everyone has fallen short, no matter what. And so I don't think we have really reason to condemn or judge there either. I think this is also a pretty good one, since we all fall short. why should we call people out for their shortcomings when we've had our own? I mean, makes sense to me. So next, I want to read Ephesians chapter 4, verses 31 through 32. These are the last two verses in Ephesians. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, hath forgiven you. So it's saying to basically put all evil aside and put it away. Don't touch it. And it says to be kind to everyone and to forgive, even as God forgave us. So I think that's really important. Now I have Romans chapter 13 verse 1 here. So you're probably wondering why I have a verse talking about subjecting ourselves to the government. Probably reading this like that's probably one of the first things you probably saw on this slide. Like, Patrick, what are you doing? What do you mean with subject ourselves to the government? Well, one, I'm not saying that, God is. In verse 1, if you have not read this, it says, let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God that powers the powers that are. I'm sorry, I can't talk. Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. And so it really is talking about, you can take it both ways. You can talk about earthly governments or you can talk about church positions, but I think this more talks about government. So obviously, we are under the government, no matter what you want to think about it. So it's like I was saying, as Christians, we have no right to condemn people to death. We have no right to say, hey, they need to be executed for this. That is the job of the government. They are God's tool. At least good governments. Now, I'm a firm believer in God allows bad people to lead a nation because the nation has been unfaithful. And I'll be honest, I'm trying not to get political, but the current administration, not doing too hot. Things are not going real well. So I think since this country has gone so far away from God that He is punishing us. People are saying like, oh, well, God, this is a God-forsaken country. Well, no, this is a country that has forsaken God. So that's all I want to say on that real quick. We have no right to condemn. And that's pretty much it. So my concluding thoughts here on this, that these two shootings this country has witnessed were both obviously terrible, and we should pray for both the victims and the two who are accused, the two who are currently in custody. I know that on the 25th, Ahmaud, the Boulder, Colorado shooter, I believe he did have a court hearing. I haven't seen the results myself. I know they're out there, and I'll probably look at them later, but we just need to pray for all these people. We need to pray for those who are deceased. We need to pray for the two who are in custody for pulling this stunt. And we need to pray for them. That's what we are called to do as Christians. And obviously these events never should have happened, however. Everything does happen for a reason. I don't believe in coincidence. And God does use good things, or He uses bad things for good, excuse me. Whenever something bad happens, God does have a way of using it for good. And so really what needs to happen is just stop hating on all sides. It's ridiculous. We've already seen it with, the conservatives hating liberals and liberals hating conservatives, or, atheists hating Christians and certain quote-unquote Christians who hate atheists, or, it's ridiculous. There's hate on every side. No one's perfect. I understand. We're human. But that doesn't give us any right to hate. And so we just need to work together and get this resolved. It's gone on too long. So here are my sources for anybody who's interested. And oh boy, this one right here, the second link, this is the router article that I got that quote from. So if you want to check that out, go for it. So I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. Like I said, I'm sorry this is out so late. And if you want to follow for any updates or anything, I need to start getting back on with Instagram and actually putting updates out there. But you can follow at The Christian Weekly, and you can also follow my personal account, pdorrance_43. None of these usernames are in all caps. This is just how the font for this slide detail works. So that's actually, this is all lowercase, and this is all lowercase. Excuse me. And if you have any kind of questions, comments, videos, ideas, you can either leave a comment in the comment section, or you can email me here, the christianweekly2020@gmail.com. Again, all undercase letters, lowercase. I don't know why I said undercase, but I'm having issues. And like I said, the next video in the next couple hours, I don't know when I'm going to get it up because I have some other chores I got to knock out. And honestly, these videos, just putting them together actually takes me not too much time, so hopefully it should be out later tonight. And I just want to give a quick heads up about what that video will be about. It is going to be about Lil Nas X and his latest music video, Montero. It is going to be about the new Satan shoes that he released. And so I did see him that he released a 47-second apology video about the whole thing. So I'm going to see what that's about and get back to you on there. I am going to leave a disclaimer right now here. If I show any pictures in the next video coming up in a couple hours, they're going to be very limited because I watched the music video myself and it was abhorrent. It was terrible. It was utterly inappropriate. It was disgusting. So I'm going to show a few pictures that I think are going to be okay. But one's going to be from a previous video, but I don't think he's done this before, just not this bad. If you are familiar with the Rodeo music video, that one was pretty demonic from what I've seen. But anyway, that'll be in next video in a couple hours. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, hit the like button, subscribe if you so feel to. Really appreciate you guys. This video will be up hopefully here in the next couple minutes. Have a great day. And it's Palm Sunday too, I should add. Or at least the coming near the end of it. It's all coming up 8 o'clock, so yeah, happy Palm Sunday, guys. Go out, do the Lord's work, have a great day, and God bless.